What's going on, everyone? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics, and we are just going to get right into it with this video. I've been seeing people talking about the new PSA slab. There was kind of a little sneak preview of it recently, and people have been going on about it and what they think about it. That obviously we'll get into that. We'll show the slab, all this kind of stuff. And I just want to give my take on it. Now, I'm just one random voice in all of this, just random YouTuber.
For I am just a YouTuber. Don't ask me anything. I only clickbait things.
That likes comics, that buys and sells graded comics, that collects graded comics, collects raw comics, all this kind of stuff. And this is just my opinion on this slab. Now, let's share it. We'll share the screen. We'll take a look at this thing while I'm talking here, because then you can take your opinion on it. Now, this was a post that was done by Neo Cards and Comics. You can see here, he said PSA did a live stream today, and this was yesterday, I believe. And a small part of that, they teased an updated comic label. Not anything too crazy, but the obvious change is the name of the book is much larger. You can see that here. If we jump over to PSA's original slab, you can see how small, like this was the one that was teased originally. You can see how small that text was. And now we've got this text here that is much larger for Amazing Spider-Man 300. Now, this is my take on all the label stuff. And this is what I got from basically the whole CBCS thing. So it was always that, get all this hate for CGC. CGC is clearly like they are the big dog in this fight. They grade the vast majority of comics. The vast majority of graded comics that are out there are CGC. Nobody is getting close to them right now. And it was always that, CBCS changes their labels and they're gonna blow past them because they have a better product, better case, more consistent grading. That's always the argument, even though I don't really agree with the more consistent grading necessarily. I think they're all basically the same. They all have little variations. It's just CGC grades way more. So you're going to have those aberrations more often. That is my opinion on it. CBCS changed their label. It made no difference. The label complaints to me are just, they're an excuse. That's generally how I see it. Now, yeah, I think that PSA label is hot garbage. I mean, that's not going to get me invited to any PSA live streams or anything like that. I know that, but I think that PSA label is hot garbage. But I'll tell you this right now. If PSA books sold for more, I'd be buying PSA books and I'd be sending my books into PSA. I mean, those are the facts. Like the reality from a dealer perspective, from someone who's wanting their books to hold long-term value, like whether you regularly sell or not, some people, they get really hung up on if someone's like a quote, a dealer or not, but it's like, even if you don't sell regularly, you sell every once in a while, you still want to get the maximum value for your books. And that's a big reason why a lot of people use CGC. And I'm the same way. Whether it's my PC books, like my keeper books or books I'm selling, I want to get the maximum value for those books when I ultimately decide to sell them. And if that's PSA, send it to PSA. If that's CBCS, I'm sending it to CBCS. But that right now is CGC. Oh yeah, I do like the CGC label more than the CBCS label. I do not like the CBCS label. I said that in a prior video. I think I don't like that design. Some people love it. That's fine. I do not like this PSA label at all. I think it's terrible. But I'd be using PSA if those books sold for more. I don't know if that's said enough. I think that like it's always hidden behind, and I think people are afraid to say it because they'll think it makes them come off as, a dealer or something instead of a true collector and this kind of thing. I just like, I hear so much of that. And the reality is, for most people, if these books sold for more, they'd be going to PSA when this comes out, regardless of what that label looks like. And I just think that needs to be said. Now, I know that's not 100% of people. That's why some people do use CBCS, even though they sell for less. Like there are some people that do use CBCS still, obviously, even though they don't command the same prices, they don't sell as easily. So it's not everybody. But especially when you're talking about dealers, you're talking about auction houses, you're talking about the big places out there that are moving high volumes of books, sales price matters. And whichever one sells for the most is the one that's going to get the business. And that is why CGC gets the business today. If these terrible labels in the future start selling for as much or more than CGC, they're going to get that business. And I just like, that's my take on this whole label situation. Now, I do not like this label. It's hard for me to center in on why. It's just one of those things where it's like when you look at something, it's either visually appealing or it's not. And the funny thing is, I actually like the PSA card labels, but I do not like this label. And it's the same general design. It's just that sometimes designs don't work the same when you expand them or you shrink them. I mentioned this in a prior video too about CGC. When CGC started grading cards and they basically took their comic label and they shrunk it to a card, I hated that label. I thought it looked terrible. It looked cheap. But on comics, I think it looks great. It looks kind of like a premium label on comics, but on cards, somehow it made it look really cheap. Whereas PSA, I feel like it's like something like the simple design on cards looks really good, but then blown up here, I do not like it. It's almost like I don't know where to look on the label. It's just everything kind of blends all together and it just does not work for me. And I don't know. I mean, I know I know how other people feel in the comments. Like there's pretty much everybody except for maybe one or two are saying they don't like it. But that's how I feel when I see it. It feels like I don't know where to focus and it looks messy to me, which is so strange because the card PSA label looks so clean. I mean, I've got one right back here, like the card PSA label, like something about like this, it just looks really, really clean. There's not a lot of white space on it. That's one of the things I think I really like about it. The PSA hologram's kind of small in the center. It doesn't detract from anything. Just something about like the PSA card label looks really clean to me. But then this label feels really, really messy. Like like I said, I don't know what it is. I think a big part of it is that hologram in the center. I don't like how large that is. I think it really throws off the overall feel of this label. But I think what it really comes down to for the most part is resale value and ability to sell the books. And people like to complain about the labels as just kind of like an excuse. But I think ultimately, if PSA comics were selling for just as much or more when they come out, and they would have to hold that. Like I could see them getting a premium right at the start and then kind of like tapering off. If they hold that, then you're going to start seeing more dealers sent to them. You're going to start seeing auction houses potentially sent to them. You're going to see more just like regular collectors sent to them. Because when it comes down to it, a lot of us, like we spend a lot of money on this hobby. Whether you're a dealer, whether it's your PC or you're just a collector or whatever, it's like you want your money to go as far as it can. And right now, CGC is where it's at. It's like those are the books that command the highest premium. And so people use CGC. Auction houses use CGC. Dealers use CGC. And so I don't think it's really so much the label, like in my opinion. I think it is a lot more that it's an excuse to just justify using CGC when, like I said, you're supposed to hate CGC, right? Like they're the evil ones, do everything wrong, like all that kind of thing. So that's kind of my take on this. Because I mean, yeah, like the comments section is just full of people that think this label is terrible. And I'm one of them. I'm not in the comment section, but I'm one of the people that thinks this label is terrible. But if PSA, if tomorrow their books are selling for more, guess who I'm switching to? I'll have PSA books up there. I mean, it's just, I mean, that is one of the things that's very important to me as a dealer, as a collector. Value matters. And I know it's like, I feel like people are so afraid to say that. Like they're so afraid to say that the money side of it does matter because it makes you seem like less of a collector or something, like all the toxic garbage that you get out there if you seem to talk about money at all. Like it doesn't make you less of a collector. It's like it just makes you someone who's value oriented. Like that is something that really matters to me when I am looking at comics and all this kind of stuff. Like value matters to me. And it's one part of that. And if all of a sudden, like I said, PSA sells for more, then I think that's going to be a big game changer. Now, the other thing, it feels like they didn't change the case at all. This still feels very large. The size that this ASM 300 looks like in this case, like that was one of the other big complaints, is that the PSA case felt like really big. Like maybe doesn't really even fit in some boxes, is going to be a lot bigger on walls, weighs a lot more. This feels like it's still really big. I don't know if they made any change in that area. We'll see. I think they're supposed to be officially showing this again at New York Comic Con. But we'll see how that all turns out, because that's something that would be I don't know, like I don't like the magazine size cases very much. Like, and I don't want something that's big and bulky like that. I want them to be as tight as possible. Like having a golden age book in a CGC case or a CBCS case that like fills up right to the edges looks incredible. Like it's one of the best looking ways to have a book displayed. It just looks so good having it filled up, all the way. Having all this extra space on the outside, I don't know. That's another thing that just doesn't really appeal to me too much with this. But right now, focus on the label. I don't like it. Other people don't seem to like it. But hot take, they sold for more. Probably be sending them to PSA. So let me know what you think in the comments. I think it'll be interesting to see what other people think, because I know like money is always such a tough topic. People don't like talking about money. People are always hesitant to talk about money. But money and value in the books is a big deal, especially when you start, you're spending hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars on these comics. Like it matters. And yeah, we'll see. I'm looking forward to it though. I do want PSA to succeed. That's why it's like, you don't really want them to start off behind. And I feel like this label is not doing them any favors. But let me know what you think in the comments. Money side of things, label side of things. I'm a little nervous about seeing what they're going to be, but let me know. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell, and I will see you on the next one.